In this week's episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Diamond is Unbreakable. Jotaro and Koichi battle against Kira Yoshikage's stand, the Killer Queen, and its explosive secret ability, the Sheer Heart Attack. Sheer Heart Attack! The creator of the JoJo series, if anything, has fantastic taste in music, and always manages to make the characters and their stand powers be related to music in some form or fashion. And the Killer Queen stand is without a doubt one of the coolest homages to one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time, Queen. Ladies and gentlemen, this week's episode of JoJo was frankly just fucking awesome. I really loved it. Not only was the Sheer Heart Attack ability really awesome, but Koichi's stand echoes actually evolved into Act 3, and we got a lot of really great moments from Jotaro and his stand Star Platinum using his special new ability, Zawarudo. I love that Jotaro is actually a central part of this week's episode, as he was one of my favorite characters from Stardust Crusaders, and we get to see a lot of his classic abilities in this episode as they're battling against the Sheer Heart Attack, which seems nigh unstoppable. No matter what they throw at this thing, it never seems to receive barely any damage. It even takes a lot of Star Platinum's punches being frozen in time and repeatedly wailed upon, and it still doesn't get destroyed. This thing basically has zero weaknesses, except for one key one. So one of the biggest things about Sheer Heart Attack is that it's actually connected to Killer Queen's left hand, which in turn means it's also connected to Kira's left hand as well. What's really unique about this is that Sheer Heart Attack can actually move on its own and attack on its own. In fact, it's kind of a heat-seeking missile. It's attracted to things that are super hot, and it actually looks at things through this weird sort of heat ray vision, very similar to the Predator. If it's in a room, it will seek out the hottest object possible. That's why it went after that one tailor who's drinking a cup of coffee. And then you have Koichi in this episode, who continuously manages to freak out and get flustered over the fact that, one, they don't really know how to stop this thing, and two, he feels that Jotaro is not really relying on his special abilities. Koichi sees himself as a character who's just sort of along for the ride, and he really wants to prove himself to Jotaro in this episode. And this almost results in both his and Jotaro's death multiple times in the episode, especially when they learn the secret ability of Sheer Heart Attack, the fact that it locks on to the hottest thing in the room. And Koichi gets completely flustered and starts to run after him, and Jotaro is forced to use the World ability, and then he starts this fire when he freezes time. Then the Sheer Heart Attack immediately turns around, goes towards Jotaro, and causes this massive explosion. You see, whatever it actually touches, depending on how proportionately big it is how big the actual explosion is going to be. And Jotaro started this huge fire, which results in this massive explosion, which sends him flying, and him being severely damaged to the point where he doesn't do anything for the rest of the episode, aside from being dragged around by Koichi, who's trying to desperately escape from this frickin' store. He tries a few cool things to try and distract it by turning on a lot of hot lights and trying to go into this kitchen and turning on the stove, but none of that works. And then he realizes that there is one weakness to the Sheer Heart Attack. As much as Kira doesn't want to believe that there is a weakness at all, Koichi is able to manipulate it by using his stand powers to create this word bubble which says sizzle on it. And he actually attaches that to the Sheer Heart Attack itself, and it basically just starts going around in circles trying to attack itself. However, Koichi should not have messed with any of that stuff in the kitchen, because eventually that stuff starts to heat up, it blasts right into the stove, which causes a massive explosion, sending Koichi and Jotaro flying out of this building. And as Sheer Heart Attack is getting ready to finish off both Koichi and Jotaro, Koichi's like, "Where the hell is my stand?" And then he sees the dead, decrepit body of Echoes just hanging out, and that's when he realizes, wait a minute, if that thing's dead, I should be dead too. And that's when we're formally introduced to Echoes Act 3, which looks all sorts of awesome. It basically looks like a weird little alien with all these like weird protruding green bumps all over its body. But what I really love about this stand is that it has a surprising amount of personality, and the fact that it has another cool ability which separates it from Echoes Act 1 and 2. It apparently has the ability to freeze objects, where if it punches them repeatedly and it's within its range, it'll actually add a lot of weight to an object. So it punches the Sheer Heart Attack multiple times to the point where it ends up weighing a lot, and it's so heavy that it can't even move on the pavement, and even starts to fall into the pavement, cracking down into it, completely slowing down its movements. And because this is happening to sheer heart attack, it's also affecting Kira, and you get to see that his hand gets all heavy and it crashes through this table as he's just having some coffee. It's a really funny scene just getting to see all of the characters react to all of this, but this is when he realizes that he's going to have to take care of business himself, and he's going to have to go and pick up the sheer heart attack. Otherwise, it might actually be destroyed, and his victims might escape for the very first time in the series. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Diamond is Unbreakable? The JoJo series always manages to surprise me with how creative it can be in terms of powers. Yes, we have characters that can punch. Yes, we've seen characters that can shoot beams and fly and do all types of crazy shit. But they always manage to up the ante in a lot of interesting ways. I would have never guessed that that little tank, the sheer heart attack, was actually the detached left arm of the Killer Queen, which had the ability to act autonomously. And the fact that it's a heat-seeking missile of doom makes it even more interesting. It itself even seems to have a small amount of personality as well. Not as much as Echo's Act 3, which is just so damn awesome looking. It also seems to be wearing gym shorts for some inexplicable reason. But honestly, it does seem sort of like a natural progression or an actual evolution of the Echo's stand. It still has a lot of the similarities with those other ones, and I'll be damned if it doesn't remind me of Cell from Dragon Ball Z. I have to admit, just like Koichi, I was getting pretty frustrated with Jotaro at the beginning of this episode. The fact that they're deciding not to go after Kira, although this could potentially bite them in the ass. Kira is a very unpredictable character, and always seems to have some sort of new ability up his sleeve. I do have to say, though, it was awesome getting to see Jotaro do some fucking work this week. Getting to see the classic aura punches coming back, him actually trying to rip the sheer heart attack apart was really awesome. Star Platinum, to me, is still one of the coolest stands from the series, despite the fact that it does have a very simple moveset when compared to some of the other characters in the series, like, say, Echoes, or even Sheer Heart Attack, Killer Queen. Honestly, what more can I say? This was another fantastic episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which had me at the edge of my seat the entire time. I really cannot wait to see how they're going to get out of this sticky situation with Kira possibly returning soon. Maybe some of the other characters are going to show up. There was a scene where Koichi was trying to get a hold of Josuke, who was starting to freak out over this situation, and he knows exactly where they are, so this could be our very first confrontation between Kira and the other big members of the team. And let's face it, Josuke, Koichi, and Jotaro, those are basically the main characters of this version of the series. Hell, I wouldn't even mind to see Okuya show up, if only so that we could get a confrontation between all of these stand users, and I'd really like to see what Kira's gonna do when he's actually confronted by this many people with a lot of really crazy stand powers. Just to see him interact with some of these guys is going to be fantastic, in particular Jotaro. I mean, Jotaro has thrown down with Dio, so I can't wait to see how he's going to go with this guy, but I mean, it's very obvious that this big final confrontation, when they eventually do get to it, is definitely going to be between Josuke and Kira. The intro makes that very evident, and I finally get that part of the intro where you see that one little creepy skull that's like closing its mouth. That's the sheer heart attack. And you know what? This was an awesome episode of JoJo, which you should definitely check out if you're a fan of the series. Whether you read the manga or you're just following the anime version, check out this week's episode. There's a lot of good stuff to go around. I'm going to drop a 5 out of 5 on this bad boy. Another immensely entertaining episode of Diamond is Unbreakable. If any of you guys did watch this week's episode, make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below. What did you think of the sheer heart attack abilities? Do you like the look of Koichi's brand new stand power, the Echoes Act 3? And what do you want to see from the rest of Diamond is Unbreakable? Please tell me in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. I really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and to smash that like button. You guys should also follow us on social media. You'll be able to find links for all that cool stuff in the description box below. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby!